Hello everyone, so I'm going to do a quick video on my overall impressions of the D09 build. Um, I was quite surprised at how well the D09 came together. The fit and finish of the parts are a lot better than what I experienced with the D08. I found that I had to do a lot of like modifications, like sanding, some adjustments with the D08. However, with the D09, it's easy to do. There was no fussing about. Maybe, I had to add a few shims here and there to take out any unnecessary slop, but that's just the way I am with my builds. Regardless of what manufacturer, I want to make sure that the car is bind free, but also slop free in every aspect. So I had no problems whatsoever with the D09. I was really happy with the build. It came together really easily. I like all the new adjustments that you can do with the chassis. Not only that, all the new and interesting option parts that you can add to the car. For example, adding like the brass weights either on the rearmost section of the car on the actual suspension block or even on the front here, which I think is a great idea. And I did some testing with the different weights and the different positionings. And I'll talk about that in another video, the shakedown video. Yeah, VBC has a really nice kit here, and I think it will perform well on most, if not all, circuits. And if you put the time and effort into the build, and pay close attention to what you're doing when you're building the car, then it should be quite effortless when you're building it. There are a few things missing in the manual, such as placement of shims. However, I hope the video that I made that mentions that will help you out. Okay, so I did mention that I was using red dot plastics throughout the car. And at first I thought it was a great idea. I did everything with red dot plastics. However, I noticed a few issues that were creeping up using the really stiff plastic, and rightfully so. This plastic is extremely stiff, and so you're going to have some fatigue issues or even breakages, which you can see right here. So for beginners or those who are tend to be frequent flyers into the boards, I would suggest maybe using silver dot plastics where the rear hub carriers and the front hub carriers are. That will add some forgiveness in the actual areas here in the front as well. Most importantly, I would really use silver dot hub carriers on the front here. Okay, the reason for this is I found that the set screw that feeds in from the top down into the hub carrier on both sides easily stripped out and obviously came loose. And I think this is because that the plastic is so stiff that the actual threads the plastic doesn't necessarily grip or wrap around the threads enough, and so it can easily strip out. So I simply switched over to the silver dot plastics, and I found that the silver dot kind of grabbed and held the actual set screw, and I've had no problems since. That's pretty much it. I would definitely keep the caster, the C hubs, the caster hubs here. Leave them red dot. Lower suspensions arms red dot. Same for the rear. Just be careful, especially in the rear section, because As you can see here, I did snap the rear arm, but it was a bit of a freak accident where the car tipped over on a dot and it basically slid upside down on a board, so against a board, sorry. So that was a bit of a freak accident. However, I had bigger crashes previous to that, and the car held up perfectly fine. I do suggest picking up the plastic drive cups. That will help lighten the drivetrain. Now, that said, I really do hope VBC looks into lightening the drivetrain, because the drivetrain is a little bit too beefy for the applications that we're running right now. I think they could do a lot by lightening up the drivetrain, especially with the CVDs, the drive axles, even the front spool setup. They can do a lot to lighten that up, and I think that will further improve the car's overall handling, because you have all this weight out in this area here, and if you can reduce that weight, I guess, what would you say? Not unsprung weight, but sprung weight. That will help reduce it all. So, and that'll probably ultimately lead to a better handling car. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there's manufacturers like Osmatics, X-Ray, that seem to have this idea of having really light drivetrain components, not only for drivetrain efficiency, but also the way that the cars handle as well on the track. I decided to actually go ahead and switch out the floating steering rack. I found that the car had way too much steering, and so I switched that out because I think just the floating mount created too unwanted chassis flex. So mounting the actual steering arms to the main chassis helped out a little bit. Not a lot, but it helped out. However, one thing to note, the D08 steering post standoffs will fit perfectly on here. That's what I ended up using from my D08, is just the standoffs from that car, and bolted on directly there. What else can I say? The shocks that I was using. I was testing between shocks with holes in them and shocks without holes. And I'll talk about that in my next video and what I think is the best situation for your D09. However, the car is very durable, well, besides this kind of freak accident. So it was basically the last practice session, and tipped it over, and it broke. But really impressed with the D09. A lot of setup adjustments, which can be overwhelming in some aspects, but if you kind of stick with the basics, go from the manual onwards, you can definitely get yourself in contention with the other chassis out there. So that said, I'm really happy with the D09. I'm really excited to let you guys know about how the shakedown went. But yeah, if you are interested in picking up a D09 chassis, great chassis. I think you'll have good luck with this chassis regardless of what conditions you're running on. And yeah, I had a great time with it. And I'll talk to you in a minute about the shakedown. Okay, bye-bye.